Margaret, you know how you and I came along here today and we thought someone was going to ask us a lot of questions?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
they're not. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about what happened. Now, can you tell us a little bit of what the project is about?
The project came about accidentally, and it's about moving hospital equipment that has already been used to a small hospital in Papua New Guinea, in a small village called Nundagal.
So there's 3 clubs involved in this, aren't there? There's you two and me.
There's the Rotary Club of Mudgee, the Rotary Club of Mudgee Sunrise, and the Rotary Club of Greenhills-Maitland.
So it's a pretty good example of everyone cooperating together.
Absolutely it is.
Okay.
And it's not only the 3 clubs cooperating together, it's the organisations certainly in Mudgee that have also cooperated.
Well, you know, I've been involved in it to a lesser degree, and in my opinion, you're the one that deserves the credit because you're the one that thought up the idea and pushed it through, and then we helped a bit. So, you want to give us a rough idea of how it started?
It started back in early July when I noticed a Facebook post from Adrian Roach from Greenhills-Maitland, who mentioned that there was a fire that burnt down the birthing unit at the Nundagal Health Clinic in PNG. That birthing unit apparently birthed all the babies from the region around it in Nundagal.
So how did you then go from that to starting this?
Well, it was about the same time that Mudgee District Hospital was being redeveloped, and there was a call that the old hospital was about to be demolished, and we knew from hearsay that new equipment had been bought from the new hospital because of COVID. So I just wondered what had happened to the old equipment, the beds and that sort of stuff in the old hospital. So I put a call into the project development officer for the redevelopment, a lady named Jo Whitson, and asked her whether there would be any hospital equipment available and explained the reason why.
Okay, so from there, where did you go on from that? She agreed to that, I take it?
Well, she had to go back and talk to the builders, a company called Hutchison Builders, who had been brought in for the development, and discuss with them whether there was any equipment available. Obviously, before that, I'd rung Adrian Roach to see whether he was looking for equipment.
All right, yeah. So where'd you go from there? There was equipment available, obviously.
There was equipment available. So it was a matter of finding out whether we could have it and whether we could get it over to Greenhills-Maitland for them to put in a container to go to PNG.
Right, and that worked?
Well, there was a few hiccups. The main hiccup was the fact that the hospital needed it gone yesterday because they needed to develop the hospital. Or actually, they needed to demolish the old hospital. So we knew there was no hope at all of getting a truck organised immediately to take it straight from the hospital to Greenhills-Maitland. So we had to organise a bit of a side trip. So it was a pickup from the hospital into an intermediate storage, and that intermediate storage then would have to hold it for 4 weeks.
Okay, can I interrupt you a bit because you're telling the whole story at once?
Sorry.
No, that's all right, because this was early in July this happened, wasn't
Yes.
it? Yeah. So I understand that it was actually Jenny Dowdy that organised Key Trans for you, who's have a relationship with your club, and they organised to take the stuff from here, from the depot to where?
To Greenhills-Maitland.
To Greenhills-Maitland, yep.
So, yes, and Key Trans, Jim Kramer from Key Trans did organise that, and it was not possible to get it organised within a short period, 4 weeks, or immediately. So we had to organise temporary storage.
Oh, righto. So who did you do that with?
Well, thankfully, Des, you stepped up to the mark then, and you spoke to a guy named John Williams from Mudgee Removals. And John was willing to supply himself, his truck, and pay his staff to move that equipment from the hospital immediately to a temporary storage if we could organise that temporary storage.
Can I just tell you a little bit about that? Because John Williams is, as you say, is a local carrier, and he spent about 5 hours moving all that gear from the hospital up to the weeds place where it was stored, and he wouldn't accept any money. So he paid all those blokes to do the work, and plus himself, plus the time, and donated all that, which I thought was outstanding for an owner-operator.
Fantastic for a very small business
Yeah.
in a town the size of Mudgee under the problems that they've had with COVID as an extra.
Yeah, yeah. And so Hutchison buildings were involved in this a bit too, weren't they?
They were, because they had to protect the equipment that was sitting in the ambulance bay at the hospital. They had to protect it from the demolishers chucking it to the tip.
All right.
And
right.
apparently
Yeah.
they were vigilant and protected it really well while we got it organised.
Yeah. Right. So the council then, they were involved, the Mudgee Council, Midwestern County Council?
We
Well,
tried.
rather. It's not a county council, Midwestern Council.
Midwestern Regional Council.
Yeah.
We tried desperately to find somewhere to store the equipment, asked a couple of places, and then had the thought that perhaps the showground might be available because with COVID there was nothing happening. So spoke to the council, was thinking of the big pavilion up there, but that was being used for COVID testing, but they provided us with a shed which incidentally and very happily was opposite Keytrans on Depot Road.
All right, yep. So that's pretty well covered all the people that helped you?
If we're talking about John Williams, who was fantastic,
Yeah.
the council who supplied it, Hutchison Builders who protected it, Midwestern Council and Keytrans,
Yeah.
I think that has us just about covered.
So was it hard to do, organise?
There were so many steps involved in making sure it happened in the right order and making sure that we had that leeway up our sleeves that we could actually store this equipment was pretty fantastic. We had to carefully make sure that we got the equipment back out of the weed shed because it started raining in Mudgee and they needed to get the equipment out of the weed shed, but the Midwestern Council couldn't do that because our hospital equipment was there. So there was lots of little steps.
I saw that equipment there was pretty good. So is it in New Guinea now, the equipment?
No, it's sitting in a shed at Maitland, waiting on them to pack the container ready to go to PNG. And they have to wait for the provincial government in PNG, who has also donated the travel between Newcastle and PNG.
Yeah.
So yes, it's sitting there waiting for the container to be loaded to go to PNG.
So it's in storage in another Rotarian shed, I believe.
That's right, it's in
Yeah.
storage in another Rotarian
Yeah.
shed.
Do you think there's any lesson in this for other clubs?
I think there is. You don't have to always do money raising functions. This is a function, this is a project that we undertook that took no money, but it took a lot of cooperation between a lot of organisations.
Do you think sometimes in Rotary we focus too much on raising money?
I'm sure there are other things that we need to focus on apart from raising money.
Yeah, I reckon you're right too. I think that certainly in our club, we're really quite good at raising money, but we need to do more to help people.
Yeah.
Uh,
I agree, Des.
from any point of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, we're talking about approximately $50,000 worth of equipment that we are sending to PNG. We're talking about, I think, just let me look at my notes if you wouldn't mind. We're talking about 13 beds. We're talking about a delivery bed. We're talking about emergency trolleys. We're talking about lots of different equipment that is definitely needed by the hospital over there.
Yeah. I think it's a good example of how two clubs have worked together, and our clubs generally work well together, even though you operate in the mornings, your members are substantially younger than ours, as half of ours are all over 70, but we meet at night times, but as two clubs, I reckon we work well together in projects like this.
I think we've always worked well together,
Yeah.
or certainly for the last 25 years
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So, yes,
Yeah, it's
I
very
think
good.
we've always worked well together. Yeah.
Right.
So,
Well,
yeah.
That's about us, I'd say.
So I
Is
think,
it?
yeah, I think, you know, I think everybody's benefited. The hospital by sending the equipment and being delighted in sending the equipment to someone who was actually going to use it rather than the equipment going to the tip. John Williams, who supported us by moving it, Hutchison Builders, who protected it, Keytrans, who moved it between here and there, the two Rotary clubs. Have I missed anybody out?
No, I don't think so. No, it's
yeah.
good, it's good. And I've noticed that morning tea's just been served, so I think we should go now. That's it.